I got to take a second. Like the look on your face the moment that we've talked about honeycomb.
Yeah.
Does not do the justice of how you're talking about it right now, because
it's
in your
1,000
eyes,
times stronger.
I see the heart shape kind of like
to
Looney
me,
Tunes.
Right.
Right. Just happening right now.
Right. Yeah.
If like you were a wolf, you would be howling right now, like the, yes, yeah, basically like that. So
I'm itching.
Yeah, I get you. That's
good stuff.
Okay.
Yeah. So next time, no matter what, whether we're recording or whether we're hanging out,
this is full of teasers right now.
Yeah.
Because the people are gonna want to know about Chandler. What was your experience having honeycombs? And like again, this could be a 20 episode like long.
Well, how do you feel about honey? Like just regular honey.
I like honey. Like I'm not like
not gonna run out and buy the T-shirt.
Another cereal reference. I'm not cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs type like for it. But like it's
all right.
But like I do like it.
Do you have a preference over any specific kinds of honey, like clover honey versus wildflower honey?
What is happening right now? I didn't even know these were a thing.
Okay.
I'm like, I feel like the rookie is showing right now. Like, I feel like there's a whole world out there that I have not experienced. And I've been seeing my life in black and white as a designer, and then you're about to
step into the honey universe.
Okay.
And like my mind is just blown at that point. So I either have to step back and just like timidly step back into it for a moment and then step back out, maybe another moment, step back out. But like it's just like whiskey or wine or really kind of anything. There's like your base level of contact with anything and everything, whether that's cars. You may only know that, you put the thing in the thing and it starts, and like you put gas in it and it goes, and sometimes a light shows up on the dash. You have to take it in and have somebody that knows what they're doing look at it. Or maybe like it's wrenching is in your bloodline and you know everything about this car inside and out. You know about the key and the ignition and the 12-volt system and the relays and all the switches and shit, whatever. So like there's a level of nerdery, I would say, to anything and everything. So when it comes to honey, I've seen that world as it passed me by, and I've written the first 5 books on it in my mind. like Moses wrote the Pentateuch.
But what I love about it, and I instantly knew, and it's like somebody's probably listening to this and it's like we're talking about honey, like
right,
like they're talking about honey, right?
Right.
Like this is. But when you love something like that much, you start getting into the exploration of really trying to understand it. It's the same thing with this whiskey, right? Going into every element of understanding the experience, the taste, what you really like about like these different types of brands. This bottle is going to be perfect for this, this moment. This bottle is going to be perfect for that. We're not going to use, there's some bottles that I've had once with Wayne, but like, and then it's like, it might be another 5 years by the time that you have that, we open that again, because this is just going to be, this is a celebration, and and I understand that this bottle does that. And this is probably the same thing with honey. It's probably the same thing with anything that you do. It's like you get that experience. Even when you talked about cars, like, there's certain cars that like, that even for me, I'm like, this is my dream car that I want to be around, and I will respect it. I will give it the justice that it deserves. And I will treat it like the queen that it is. And like, that's how we do it. And then there's some cars that I'm like, all right, like, let's just see. I'm just going to floor it because if whatever happens to it, who cares?
Yeah.
A little bit.
Because it's a 93 Buick Regal.
Right.
Like, it's either going to shit here in the middle of the highway or it's going to shit on a back road somewhere.
But at the same time, you have these
experiences. It says top speed 80 miles an hour. We're going to find out.
But at the same time, there's these experiences. there's these experiences with cars that are not the classic. Right? Like, I guess I feel like there's the metaphor that you could talk about cars. You could talk about anything that you actually love.
Motorcycles.
Right?
Motorcycles.
Man, yeah. I still remember as clear as yesterday the first time, my first Harley, finding those triple digits. And, you're just rolling that throttle and you're watching that speedometer climb, and then you get to 100, and then it's 105, and then it's 110. and then
And the fork's steady. There's no like shimmy.
oh, you're full on white knuckled at that point.
Right.
Yeah, your front tire's bouncing, hopping just a little bit.
Nope.
And
I'd back off
there's
that
a
throttle.
lot. I've buried, that speedometer goes to 120, and I have found the 120 on my Harley. That particular day was a day that Mitch and I were out, and we were just west of Parkville area. And at that time, I was on my my first Harley Davidson Softail Deuce.
Okay.
And Mitch was on a CBR. And for the longest time, I think up to about 85, 90 miles an hour, I was right on his heels. And it was one of those situations we've talked about. Mitch and I go way, way back. And, when it comes to bikes and riding and all that, we kind of have this very symbiotic riding style where we just know where the other one's going, whatever, which is why, I'm very, very picky about who I let ride toe-to-toe, side-by-side with.
That's very common.
Typically,
among motorcycle riders.
Typically, when you're riding with a group of guys, there's a little bit of a stagger pattern to your riding style. There's just a couple guys that I'm comfortable enough that I will ride toe to toe with, and Mitch and I have always just had that kind of a riding style going on. And that was one of those days where I just got the glance from him, and I knew that it was on. So without hesitation, I downshifted and I just rolled into it, and I was right on his heels till about, like I said, about 85, 90, and then your sports bike, he just kind of started walking away from me, and I was still steadily accelerating, but he was pulling away a little bit faster than I could keep up with him. But yeah, that was my first experience triple digits on two
And had
wheels.
I been behind him, I'd have been like, these boys are in a hurry. I'm just going to hang out. I'm not going triple digits myself. Nope.
I mean, I would have been on my bicycle. Roll, guys, keep up. Like, I'm catching up. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then years later, that experience gets dwarfed by the adrenaline rush that you get from skydiving. And that still is the top of my adrenaline game at this moment. But you've been
still stuck
skydiving, haven't you?
I went skydiving.
Yeah.
And there's something. I've went twice. I went once by myself on my birthday, and then I went with my mom.
Were those both tandem jumps, or were any of those static line jumps?
Tandem.
Okay.
And the crazy thing is, my dad, I guess he learned, they went through a full day training and did it by himself.
Yep.
Like the first, and I was like,
I've done that,
and I was
3 times, 4 times,
and that's what I wanted to do initially. Like, I was like, no fear, let's go. Either you learn or you don't learn.
I'm getting sweaty palms just thinking about it.
But for
Why would
me,
you jump out of a perfectly good plane?
so for me, I think it's any person that's asked, were you scared? And I said no, because with the tandem, I was like, the only thing that I have to make the choice is to jump. That's it. Everything else figuring it out is based on the person that's I'm attached to. So for me, it was just once I jump, I'm gonna make sure that I do what they've told me to do. It's I keep my legs close and up, and I have my hands out, and this is what I'm doing. But once you're up there, I think the free falling is so quick that your brain is not able to process it. It's just you are falling, down towards the ground so quickly that it's okay, it's happening. And then when they pulled the chute the first time for me, that's when everything became clear of basically how small we are, but how small we are, but how big we are in the sense of once you land on the ground and you realize the space that you're in and how much how impactful that can be. But then the second time, that's when things started slowing down with the free fall. And I imagine if I did it more, the more that I could process and take in. And again, we've jumped through 4 different metaphors potentially between honey to motorcycles to skydiving. But I feel the more that you embrace that experience, the more you're going to understand and be able to see the details and the finer notes of things when you're doing it. So it's if you're drinking something, I'm bringing this back, right? But when you're drinking something, the more that you're taking the taste and drinking more whiskey and taking your time to understand the notes, the more that you're going to be able to process that stuff. But if you just gulp it down,
You're going to miss it.
You're going to miss it every single time because you haven't done the work to be able to process that stuff. And yeah, like for me, the 2 times that I went skydiving, that's what it felt like. The first one was like a blur, and the second time, you know, it was probably a blur for my mom. You know, she's a beast for doing it at 50 years old, but like that's her, right? But like for me, it was like it felt like it slowed down a little bit, or like the confidence grew where I could understand it a little bit more. And you know, hopefully, I'm planning on skydiving again. Hopefully, you know, one of these days I'll be doing it by myself and I'll be able to like understand it fully. Same thing with this whiskey. I hope that like when the next time that you see me, I'll be like, oh yeah, I taste the grassy notes, and I smell the grassy notes, and I smell caramel and all this type of stuff.
Maybe next time I mow, I'll just pick up a little clump, kind of get it between the teeth.
Doesn't taste like whiskey.
Get it between the teeth and grind it and try to like, you know, sear that into my memory holes, so I can be like, all right, pour that shit again. Give me that shit one more again.
It's like all you tasting is grass. Like,
Right.
I'm like, you still got grass in your teeth.
Yeah, well, at one point in time, all I've tasted is honey.
Yeah.
And I love honey. I'm probably not going to love the taste of my lawn, but it'll be in there.
Well,
I'll
what type
remember
of
it.
grass do you got?
Yard grass.
Okay. The classic yard grass.
Classic. It's sometimes in the shade and sometimes full sun. It gets really hot in the summer.
Love that good old yard grass.
Yard grass. Hey man, you got to do that grass. I'm like, yeah, man, I buy it by the yard.
I hear the NFL is looking for some good yard grass. Maybe you should come over to yours.
Maybe
your house.
I'll give them some.
Yeah.
I could use another garden patch, another garden bed. I could put another one in.